Project scope management, let's talk about the process collect requirements. It's part of the planning processes within project scope management, and it's related to discussions that we could have from the point of view of project stakeholder management, because in stakeholder management we say that stakeholders have expectations, which really are a form of requirements. Now let's focus a little more directly on these requirements. So it is defined as determining and documenting stakeholder needs to meet project objectives. You've got a couple of inputs already. You have a project charter which has authorized you to expend resources at doing this further planning work. You already have some initial requirements that were part of that project charter. And you've already identified stakeholders and you have a list of those stakeholders, and now you're finding out what their requirements are. Now these requirements can be product requirements or they can be project requirements. And Project Management Institute, their framework has a further list of categories of what these could be, and you can read a description of what these requirement types are in the Project Management Body of Knowledge document. I want to give you some examples here. Now let's just say, this is strictly a hypothetical example, but let's just say that there's a Canadian couple that wants to semi-retire in a warmer location, let's say in Mexico, outside of Guadalajara. And let's say they decide in order to do that, they're going to open a bed and breakfast or a small inn. Now, as I say, this is just a hypothetical story, and imagine that it's me who's going to do that. And as I'm planning that project, because that is a significant project, I'm going to think about the following types of requirements. Well, there's business requirements. These are higher level business needs. They're really related to the business case. Does it make sense for me to go into this project? So a business requirements would be that the investment in the project must be within a certain affordability limit that my wife and I can afford, and there'd be a business requirement that the inn is going to earn a sufficient financial return to make that investment worthwhile. Now there's also solution requirements. And these fit within what you could call product requirements. They have to do with the features or characteristics of the final product or result. So in this hypothetical case, en-suite bathrooms for every suite, live-in accommodation for the couple, a maximum of 10 minutes walking distance to shops and restaurants, burglar resistance, and other things. It's related to the final product of what is created in terms of a bed and breakfast or inn. Quality requirements. These are requirements that are required to achieve successful completion, and these are usually fit within the category of product requirements. For example, the inn must clearly appeal to and satisfy the intended clientele, and we want the design and construction to provide a low maintenance building. These are things that I would think of to provide the kind of quality that I need in the actual physical inn itself. Then there's stakeholder requirements. Now some of these stakeholder requirements could be product requirements having to do with the final result, or they could be project requirements having to do with how the project is carried out. Now, in this hypothetical case, I'm early in the planning, and I'm identifying who those stakeholders are. I know that potential customers and government regulators are going to have some requirements in terms of the final product, and some of those government regulators may have requirements with respect to the process or project requirements. These are yet to be determined. There's transition requirements listed in the PMI guide. Transition requirements are temporary requirements to move from an as-is to the to-be state. As-is and to-be is concepts that come from business process engineering projects and information technology projects, but applicable in this project as well. So the couple don't want to be living full-time in Mexico working on the project for more than 6 months until they start to earn some sort of return from the project. So that has to do with the transition from where we are now to where the project is going to take us. Then there can be other project requirements, clearly fitting into the project requirement category. For example, if there's going to be a company, a financial company holding a mortgage, the mortgagor would have requirements about releasing the funds for the purchase and renovation, and in this hypothetical project, those specific requirements still have to be determined. In the guide to the project management body of knowledge, there is a list of tools in collect requirements. Now, if your project is a technical requirement, then you're following the product-oriented processes, we call them, of getting the project done. You are designing and building a hospital, or you are designing and coding a software application. Well, within your technical discipline, you're going to have ways of gathering requirements. For example, architects have ways for determining program requirements and then programming the building, the space within a project. In information technology and business process design, they use business analysis, so they have business analysts as experts at soliciting requirements and turning them into technical terms then for the technical teams to work on design and building. In other kinds of engineering projects, you're going to have your own ways to collect technical requirements. But these are the ones that PMI has listed. So you're interviewing people, you're interviewing subject matter experts, you're interviewing clients and users. You can use questionnaires and surveys instead of person-to-person interviews in some cases. For business process automation projects, for example, you can use observations where business analysts will actually watch people carrying out the job in a more manual way in order to know how that process works. Often you can use prototypes, ways of showing a customer or user what it's going to look like. It could be a prototype screen that shows what the computer monitor screen is going to look like, even before you've done any actual design. It's just you're showing what the screen is going to be like. And you'll get a much better solicitation of their ideas and their requirements if you show them something. If it's an architectural project, maybe you build a cardboard prototype of what the concept is intended to look like. Or sometimes we can show people in three-dimensional modeling what something will look like. Then there's a number of group techniques. These group techniques are worthy of a separate discussion, but you can have facilitated workshops. Marketing, for example, uses focus groups. Well, you can use focus groups to get requirements out of the users of whatever your project is going to produce. There's ways of working within teams that we have listed here. Brainstorming, nominal group technique, mind mapping, affinity diagrams, and context diagrams. These are all ways to facilitate discussion within a group and to pull ideas out of group members. A significant problem when working with a group, particularly with larger groups, is that some people are not going to say anything. They're going to be reluctant to express their ideas. Maybe they're not confident or they're worried about being shut down. These all are ways of making it easier for those people to speak up, and as I say, that's worth a further discussion. So this wraps up, for the purpose of this video, collect requirements.